Good morning, everybody. This is Grant from State of the Spark, and it's a lovely Thursday. I hope you are doing fantastic today. Yesterday, we had a shortened show for everyone called Encouragement for Today, and we had a blast, and it was so fun, and it was really needed. It was a tough day. It was a tough day before, and you guys brought the energy. I love it, and thank you, and I hope your day was going okay. I hope you actually ended the day on a high note. Not that we can always expect that, but we hope for it and we envision it. Today's show, I'm super excited to talk about a phrase I've heard, a phrase I use, and it's how to turn fantasy into fact. How to turn fantasy into fact. And I like, obviously, the F's. I like how that sounds. And what the missing element there is for most people. I talk to a lot of people, a lot of coaching, and there's just something that weighs on me that most of you don't do. And we're going to cover that this morning. And I have, obviously, a Spark Freedom framework called I.T.E.A. Yes, like idea, like IKEA, but with a T, I.T.E.A. A simple acronym for you to remember how to get these things into alignment. So we're going to cover that. Now, before that, you know we're going to cover other news. And that's a little bit of other news that hopefully makes us more intelligent as citizens of the world, more enlightened, and it gives us something to think about, talk about, and elevate our brains other than what the public and the media want you to think about. We're going to cover other news today. It's a little bit of science. It's a little bit of children education and how we're making children education better and how we're understanding our planetary history to prevent us to succumb to modern extinctions. And so how we're doing that. So we're going to cover that in other news. But before any of that, you know what time it is. It's time for a warm cup of gratitude. Hopefully you start your day with a cup of gratitude. And I'm glad you're here because you get to do it with us. So in the comments, I want to hear what you're grateful for. If we can start this day with gratitude, it's like a micro meditation. And when you encounter trouble today, which you will, and so will I, and that's the game. But if we can nurture a mind that goes to a default of gratitude, we're just elevating ourselves and the people we're encountering, even if they're the problem. So what are you grateful for? I want to hear in the comments. I'll go ahead and start. I'm massively, massively grateful for Adam Welchel yesterday. Massively grateful. You see, I envisioned, I had a fantasy that I could be surrounded by high-lit individuals, intelligent people, skilled people, extraordinary individuals who have raised up and are making an impact in other people's lives, who are stepping up and adding value into entrepreneurs and dreamers' lives and elevating them. Yesterday, Adam Welchel, he had two huge wins in my book yesterday. Two huge wins. Yesterday, Adam Welchel, of his own accord, put together a Spark Bookkeeping workshop in partnership with Bridge Local, a Lakeland group, if you're not from Lakeland, of business owners. And the room was packed. And the room was packed with intelligent people. The room was packed with successful people. I went around and did the introductions in the room, and I realized I knew the hero stories of most of the people in that room. And that just feeds my soul. That just feeds my soul. And I got to tell you, it lifted me up so strong. And Adam putting that room together and delivering such high level intelligence, nuanced, useful information to those people, I could see the lights go on in their eyes. And I had this huge sense of relief. I could fall off this planet. And what I picture the Spark mission to be, igniting lives of explosive significance, would continue on without me, no matter if I did another thing yet. Because Adam, if he was the only person, was doing it. But I know most of the people in that room, and most of the people at that room were also impacting their spheres, and it was a visceral win. So Adam had that huge win. The second huge win Adam had was this. Adam had a warrior spirit. He had a tickle in his throat on Monday. He was concerned that he had a tickle in his throat on Tuesday. And yesterday morning, he reached out and said, hey, man, I don't want to risk getting other people sick. I don't know if I have the crunk-a-funk, but I need some help. He reached out and I was able to help. He still was able to show up with our modern technology, but here was his second win. With Adam's warrior spirit, he felt under the weather, but he pulled his team together and he said, can we do this? And even down to the wire, we couldn't get the audio to come through the Zoom and into the room. And he was calm and collected like a true warrior. And he took over the screen remotely, and he actually made the audio work in our room remotely. It came up, and then without a single ruffled feather, he delivered an amazing afternoon of how to actually find profit in your business. The man exhibited warrior spirit. So he had 2 major wins, and I'm grateful for that because it puts me at ease that there are great people achieving the Spark mission as I define it, with or without us. Now, that just raises the bar on me, and I got to do more to help your world take the next level. So that is what I'm grateful for. What are you grateful for today? Tell me in the comments. Tell yourself by typing it and manifesting it in the world, because remember today's lesson. Today's lesson is on making your fantasy into fact. And if you can express gratitude by typing it out and sharing it publicly, you begin to make that thing a reality. Somebody says, hey, congrats to Adam. Who says this? This looks like Jessica. Jessica says, congrats to Adam. Exclamation points. Congrats to Adam, exclamation points. P.S. I'm glad to use the term crunkafunk. Crunkafunk. That's my alternate firm. Instead of saying the word COVID all the time, that's a crunkafunk. It just gets up in your system, Jessica. That's too funny to me. So yes, you're allowed to use my colloquialism. I have the crunkafunk. In other news today, this AI algorithm can help us help students learn better. Yes. AI can actually help. No, this is not intelligent. What is the robot? Terminator? No, this isn't the Terminator. This is a very specific artificial intelligence that reads the faces in a classroom or on Zoom of students studying on their own and can notify a teacher with an early warning if that student's facial expressions are indicating that the student is struggling. So a teacher in Hong Kong by the name of Ka-Tim Chu, Dory says she likes the term crunkafunk. Dory's like, I'm taking it. If I take one thing away from today's lesson, it's the term crunkafunk. You're welcome, patent pending. So a teacher in Hong Kong by the name of Ka-Tim Chu is a teacher at Hong Kong's True Light College. And fun fact, I believe this is the school I visited in 2005 when wandering around Hong Kong. I have to verify that. But the way I looked up the school, and I was like, wait a minute, I think I've even been here. Basically, this teacher spent decades watching students' faces. He cared so much about how the students were learning and whether or not they were successful in their reading lessons or in their math lessons, that he would go through the room and scan their faces. He would do this for years. And as such, he was able to kind of see micro expressions that would allow him to engage that student before they got too frustrated to learn. Or he would take them aside for tutoring or what have you. He began teaching other teachers this, and he began taking photos of students' faces from afar in order to early identify and teach other people how to do this. They've loaded all of his lessons into a database that they have taught an AI to read, and then they've deployed that AI in a room to now rapidly add to that database. The goal is early intervention. They got about a $5 million funding, and great news, because it needs to learn even more faces, and it needs to bridge racial bias. You see, students in Hong Kong, Cantonese or Chinese students, might express a different, more inquisitive look, but that might be them being polite when they're actually experiencing a lot of frustration, whereas people in America are like, what the crap is going on? AI would have no problem reading that. So there is a cognitive bias in the AI that they have to bridge, and they recognize a racial bias. So they're using the $5 million to expand the database and then actually read across cultures. A, what is this person's racial background or their contextual background? And B, then how can I serve them to notify the teacher? Obviously, this is raising debate because the question is shouldn't students struggle at least a little bit? And that's part of the learning. And so how to wield the tool is being debated now, but it is a powerful tool that they're actually cultivating from a teacher's passion to help students learn a little better. So yes, you have that link in the comments there for you to look up if you want to see how that's helping students. And this should be able to be deployed remotely. So you homeschool parents or you remote parents, don't worry, you won't get left out. It should also be available to you. So that's good news on how we're using AI to make students' lives better. Let's talk about the world's oldest DNA and why do we even care? Why is this in other news? Why does this make us smarter? Check it out. In the latest piece of AI, and actually AI is being deployed, but it's not the real story here. The real story is that a 1.5 million year old woolly mammoth was discovered on the tundra of Siberia. You see, climate change, or a better term that Marissa and I discovered yesterday, climate destabilization is actually a better term because climate change is now a very political term, or global warmings we now know is highly inaccurate because, as we know in Texas, they're not too warm. But it is still the result of climate destabilization. Climate destabilization in Siberia has revealed a bunch of new DNA. Siberia, saber-toothed tiger, ancient horses, and they're starting to actually decode the DNA or sequence the DNA. So what they're finding is they used AI to use a modern African elephant as a blueprint, and they knew it was a woolly mammoth because the carcass and the tusk were still very well preserved coming out of the permafrost. And as Siberia not only melts off, but now has new rains, it's revealing that the soil is eroding, and we're seeing a lot of skeletal remains. So we knew it was a woolly mammoth. So they used a modern elephant's DNA as a blueprint, and the AI compared that blueprint to the DNA sequencing, and it was able to, in rapid time, sequence the woolly mammoth DNA. That's the oldest known DNA to be sequenced, 2.5 million years old. Now, this is taking us into deep time, as scientists are referring to it. And here's why this is important. There's a lot of research going on about the evolution of the planet, and the main reason is this. If we can identify what caused major extinctions, we can have early warning for extinctions that might affect humans. Part of the race to Mars is not a race of billionaires trying to find new worlds to conquer, though literally that's what's going on. What they're doing is they're trying to actually make the species more resilient, because if, God forbid, something happened to the Earth again, if we were living either in space, which is Jeff Bezos' dream, or living on Mars, which is Elon Musk's dream, if we were focused on that, our species would at least be preserved. And we want to watch for that. But how do these extinctions occur? Are they pestilence like COVID or virus? Or are they comets or asteroids? And if they're comets and asteroids, how did it affect them? How long did the species have to survive after the impact of an asteroid? Now, there's astrophysicists mapping all the asteroids and comets in our solar system to prevent something like that to happen. But scientists using the DNA from this woolly mammoth can actually see roughly when it existed. And if we can know when it existed, we can see how it was affected on a genetic level based on asteroid impacts. We can see how old these things were and start to piece together the past. So I think it's highly important that we continue not only to use AI, but to continue explore and accept the evolutionary nature of our species, of our planet, in order to make us a more resilient species and learn more. So listen, if you want to check more of that out, there's a link right here. Boom. It's got the science behind it. It's got the maths behind it. So you can have that in front of it and share that with loved ones that, hey, the oldest, if you were having a trivia night over drinks one night and someone said, hey, what's the oldest known DNA sequence? If they happen to ask you that, the answer is 1.5 million years old. So how do we prevent your dreams from going extinct? Don't you love that transition? Here we go. Let's talk about how to prevent your dreams from going extinct. So today I want to talk about from fantasy to fact, and I want to share this with you because of a major issue I'm finding. I can't tell you how often I talk to people and I ask them, what's your dream? And they say, I don't know. And I say, well, make one up. And they say, I don't know. I said, well, you want to travel? Oh, well, yeah, I guess so. And where would you start traveling? I don't know. Well, just pick a place. Where would you want to start? Where do you picture yourself going? I don't know. And then they think about it, and then they come back to me later. This is so pervasive, this inability to picture your fantasy, your imagination, your desires. It's so pervasive that Marissa and I spent the weekend in the Biltmore for her birthday in mid-January. And she can testify to this. I asked the server what his dream was, and he left in a huff. He was upset, left the table. Our server supposed to be serving us at a swanky place in the Biltmore, and in a huff walked away. And he came back a little bit later and said, listen, I'm sorry for responding like this. And we got to talking about this a little further. And he had been so pent up about his dream that it caused a visceral, physical reaction. You see, he had lost his dreams. Some things had happened to him, some improprieties in some past life in the ministry, and he was not able to pursue his dream in the ministry. And it broke his heart so much that he had chosen to stop fantasizing about his dream. What's your dream? I want to know your dream. We talked about gratitude earlier. Listen, if you have a pulse and you are watching this, and I'm talking to Marissa in the other room, I'm talking to Dory who just said, there it is. I'm talking to Jessica and whoever else is tuning in. If you were watching this, this is your sign. Write your goal or dream. The biggest one that stirs you the most in the comments. Write it down. I'm challenging you. If you resist that urge, you are also guilty of the same thing. Resisting any and every opportunity to reinforce your imagination, to reinforce your dream. And you are probably doing that because of a past disappointment or a past hurt. And you are blaming that trauma, that micro trauma. You're blaming that micro trauma to not move forward. Now, whoever this is, my new best friend, I have to think that this is probably James Joseph. James Joseph. James Joseph says, my dream is to unleash Grant Nadeau. And he unleashes me on waffles about once a week. But hopefully we're going to partner up a little bit today in unleashing Spark Training. So a sneak peek, or you heard it here first, Spark Training and Stay the Spark are going to push into live events and coaching and training in 2021. You're going to see that from the lovely James Joseph. And I appreciate that. So James is the only one to take my challenge. What's your dream? There are 6 people watching live right now. Oh, it was just 7, 4, 8. You people, post your dream in the comments. I'm challenging you here. Post your dream in the comments. So let's talk about this a little bit further. I talked to a lot of people. Oh, Dory. Thank you, Dory. Dory says one of them is to make it to Italy someday. I will do this for you. And I have a dream board. It's in my dream machine in my backpack. I could show it to you. And me and Marissa have a big dream. We just want to spend a luxurious time in Italy. We don't have many luxury dreams, me and Marissa. We just want to travel, but they're not really luxury travel. We just want to see the world. But our luxury dream is to really spend some time and money with friends that we know, like, and trust and love in Italy. Let's coordinate it. That's a dream, and it should stimulate you. And in past hurts and past disappointments, when you've posted your dream and shared it, and then saw something get in the way, the disappointment could have been so visceral that for some reason you chose to quit dreaming. Listen, there are 6 of you, and only 1 of you has, or 2 of you have posted your dream. There it is. Oh, there she is. I knew this one. You know why I know this one? This says hike to PCT. And Marissa thinks whatever she might think. But let me show you this. This sheet sits on my desk. And right there is Marissa's dreams. That's Marissa's dream. She wants to hike the PCT. And this rocked us. This rocked us when she brought it up. But it came up. Now look at this. One of you shared their dream. James Joseph shared his dream. And it unlocked Dory to sharing her dream. And then Marissa felt comfortable to share the dream. And let's look. Jessica Ojeda shares her dream. She says, my dream is to live on a property in the mountains of Colorado, homesteading and homeschooling while working with clients globally and possibly working with astronauts as well. And let me tell you something, Jessica. Let me affirm this. I met a gal who works with astronauts for scuba diving. She got a grant with the National Institute of Health. Yes, she does have some advanced education, but you don't need that. She had some of that. She got a grant. I think it was like $50,000 or $100,000. And with that grant, she hustled and found herself relationships with astronauts that she could work with. I would love to do this as well. I want to work with astronauts. I'm going to own this. Jane, look at this though. I harried you. I poked and prodded you. I nudged you. And it wasn't until James shared his dream that Dory felt confident to share her dream, that Marissa shared her dream, that Jessica Ojeda shared her dream, and then Lisa Welsh jumps in and says, I dream to complete the last 5 on my bucket list. And she's keeping those to herself, but she's posting it. And when you post those, it should give you a little hair on the back of your neck, and it should scare you and upset you a little bit, but stimulate you. We need to be bolder for our dreams. And part of what I'm sharing, why I'm sharing this framework, and I'll share it real quick, and you guys know once we get to the framework, the context is really important. The content itself is actually really small, but the context is important. And the context is do you go through life encountering people who are stifled and constipated with their dreams? I challenge you, part of what the mission of Igniting Lives of Explosive Significance, you could fulfill this for me and build your business. I guarantee this will build your business. If as you run into potential clients or anybody, you ask them, hey, what's your dream? And just watch how they respond. They're used to saying, hey, how's it going? Stop that. Hey, what's your business? And they'll know you're not listening. Instead, ask, hey, what's your dream? And see how they respond. You'll fulfill my mission and build yours at the same time, because you will be immediately endeared to people, especially if you listen and care. Ooh, constipated with their dreams. That's a strong but stinky word. People get constipated with their dreams. That's from James Joseph playing with us over there. So listen. This is a massive problem that we find in the world, whether you're in the ministry, like James and Dory often find themselves. I've been in the ministry. Me and Marissa, she laughs because when we were in the Dominican Republic on the missionary field, the one fluid Spanish conversation I could finally work through was about dreams. Los sueños, the dreams of the heart. Los sueños de corazón. Come on, let's talk about dreams. Let's talk about fantasy. And I think what often happens is this. We evaluate whether or not something is possible based on past experience. And if you pause, my lovely friends, over coffee, if we can have, we're not talking about business right now. We're not talking about anything but sheer rationale. If we judged how emotional we get about what we want for the future based on what the past happened when it comes to food, we'd never eat again. If you treat food and your food disappointment, how often have you gone to a restaurant, ordered, thought, oh man, this is my one cheat meal. You bought that cheat meal and you were so disappointed that you never ate again. Dude, this is just food. We're talking about your dreams. We're talking about the things that mean more to you than anything. And I understand that if you had a dream and then had a massive setback on that dream, how that can fold you up because you're so tied to that emotionally, you don't ever want to feel that level of despair and disappointment again. But how much more resilient must you be because it's your dream? It should be bulletproof. If it's your dream, it should be so close to your heart that no matter what, if I didn't have my dream become fulfilled and I went to my grave, I should make them write on my gravestone, I'm still holding out for. I'm still holding out for. That's how close to yourself, no matter how many setbacks you have. The dream, because I'm telling you, in this crazy topsy-turvy world, in a world where we don't have much imagination, in a world where our thoughts are pulled left and right by Netflix and social media, where our emotional spectrum, we don't even know what to feel about COVID. We don't even know what to feel about the Capitol riots. Do I like it? Do I dislike it? I don't know how to, it's literally like someone took a wet painting and ran their fingers back and forth across it. That's where our identity is spread out and messed up. So what's your inner compass? Well, hopefully some spirituality, right? Hopefully whatever you call God is close to you, and it's close and firm, and it's a firm foundation to stand on. But right next to that is what you hope that manifests for you. What your spiritual life manifests in your real life. What your God belief manifests in your physical world. Like, you hope for something. That's why you hold these beliefs. If you hold any spiritual beliefs at all, why you hold them is to make the world better. Not just for you, but for those around you, but to make it better. That's what we call a dream. So we're calling this fantasy to fact because Quite often, people feel like they have to get their whole internal life correct to achieve their dreams. Jessica Ojeda has to get so much right internally, or some think, in order to work with astronauts. And these astronauts, man, they're hard to get a hold of. They're hard to reach out and connect with. They're hard to even get 5 minutes of their time to make an impact in their life. And it's pretty intimidating. But the truth is, to achieve big things in the world, you just need to get into alignment with your actions. Adam told me yesterday, I wanted to get mentored by Seth Godin and Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone. I wanted to get mentored by all these guys. So what could I do? What could he do? Nanishi, good morning, Nanishi. How are you doing? We see here that Nanishi's up this morning with the fam. Boom. Nanishi says hi. Good morning, Nanishi. There's your words right there in front of all these beautiful people. Nanishi's up this morning making herself a stronger citizen of the world too, man. So Adam said he wanted to get mentored by Seth Godin, Grant Cardone, and Tony Robbins. Now, if you and I were to wake up and say that, we'd be like, how do we do that? And we're trying to figure it out, and we realize these people are too hard to reach, and we just give up. Not Adam. Adam's resilient. Adam's a dreamer. So what did Adam do? He just emailed him. He took a token action in the physical world. He didn't say, I got to get my mind right. He didn't say, I got to manifest this in my brain. Maybe he spent some time with that. And for him to take the action he took, I assume he did. And that action was this. I'm just going to email their office. Hey, guys, I need some mentoring. I got this, that question. Let me know if Tony has time. Let me know if Grant Cardone has time. Let me know if Seth Godin has time. What do you think? Do you think they had time? No, of course not. Of course they didn't have time. But someone from the office said, hey, this is what they tell us to tell you. Now, was that a win? Was it the pure vision? No, but it was a step. And now Adam has a confidence building step in the real world. Did Adam have to do 4 weeks, 13 weeks study of Think and Grow Rich? Did he have to do all this meditation and get massive clarity? Did he have to have a divine download? No, he needed to align his inner desire with his action steps. And he simply needed to remove the mechanism of disqualifying himself. You are disqualifying yourself from your biggest dreams. Marissa wants to hike the PCT. We had a lot of conflict when she first mentioned this. We had a lot of challenges. I had clingy challenges. We had practical business challenges. But for her to post in the comments, hike the PCT, that's confidence building in me, because it says, man, Marissa's dream is really durable. Because we've been through a lot since she announced it to me the first time. And we've been through a lot together. And she could start to disqualify this thought. Well, the business. Well, our team. Our team is new and still a little wet behind the ears or green behind the ears. Grant might not know what to do with himself, which is completely true. But that's not a disqualification. It's just true. We still need to take steps. And in Marissa's both allegory, metaphor, and true mythology, she's still been taking steps. She's a hiker. For those who don't know, the PCT is a hike. For those who don't know, and she's still taking steps with her girls. Dory says, that's good. Do not disqualify yourself from your own dreams. And let's pause on that for 2 seconds. Let me ask you a fun Jeopardy question. Here's your Jeopardy question. Is the world going to try to disqualify you? You bet. The world would rather have you sit in Netflix and binge. Is the government going to try to disqualify you? Yes, a population that's controlled is a population that feeds the machine. Is the news going to try to disqualify you? You bet the news is going to try to disqualify you. You bet the haters, you bet those who want the same goal are going to try to disqualify you. Not because they're mean, but because they're not dreamers of how we can do it together. James says it may be true, but it's not a disqualification. Quit trying to disqualify yourself. If you want the world to say yes to your dreams, it is asking you, the world, people, let me be specific, the people around you that you need to be your wing person, the people around you are looking into you as going, hey, are you going to seriously pursue that thing? And yes, it's scary for them. Yes, it might not be they might not have a grid for it. They might not have a schema for how that's going to happen. So they're looking for you for leadership, and they're going to ask you, are you really going to do this thing? And it is up to you. It is up to you to say, yes, I'm going to do this thing, and I need you to back me on it. And they're going to look for your leadership. There's other requirements that will come up of you because you put that stake in the ground. But they are looking to you. The world is looking to me, Grant, when I'm going to announce the next Spark event. I can't wait on anybody else. The world needs me, and the world's looking at me going, hey, are we going to do this thing or what? And I've got to say yes, and then I've got to bring the leadership. Quit disqualifying yourself. So my point with this is that Adam chose not to disqualify himself and reached out to these potential mentors and took that action. Did he get it? Should he have massive emotional disappointment because he didn't get mentored? No, he knew what he was getting into, but he wasn't going to take it lying down. That it's hard to reach Tony Robbins, Seth Godin, or Grant Cardone. He wasn't going to take it lying down. So he went ahead and messaged him anyway and got some mentoring, got some direction. That's okay. He's got the feather in the cap, and he's got the self-confidence built that I will do what it takes. So let's think about this. We need to align our thinking, our imagination, our thoughts, and our emotions in order to have the mental resilience just to take the action. Listen, all we're trying to do is build an internal life that's just strong enough to not disqualify ourselves, because your hands want to do the big things. Your body wants to get up and go get fit. Your hands and your heart and your entire biology is a manifestation machine. And we could get into the actual biochemical fact about your blood cells just manifesting because they want to create goodness in the world. But your mind, your emotions, and I present for your consideration your lack of imagination, your lack of dreaming, your lack of daydreaming. If the world can keep you busy enough, it'll prevent you from daydreaming. Your lack of daydreaming is preventing you from aligning everything like a lock in a tumbler to unlock what your hands want to do in the world anyway. And in Adam's case, that's emailing mentors. In Marissa's case, that's hiking the Florida Trail and getting prepped, getting to the gym, whatever you need to do. So let's talk about I.T.E.A, I.T.E.A. Let's talk about this real quick. Number one, it's an acronym for you to remember the 4 mechanisms you need to unlock action in the world that can lead to your goals. Boom. James says, that's true community. Those who challenge their core people to actually step in the direction of their dreams. It's why one of our favorite nights with our tribe is Dream Night. Do the people closest to you, those who love you and spend the most time with you, actually know your dreams? I'm going to leave this up here for a quick second as we cover I.T.E.A because it's well spoken by James Joseph. That's from James Joseph right there. They have a dream night where they just focus on their dreams. Do you have a community where you have a scheduled time as a community to cultivate and share your dreams? Do you have a community like that? Man, what a good community to be a part of. Check this out. I.T.E.A, I.T.E.A. The first is imagination. And this is from the inside out, which Stephen Covey called for in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Are you moving from the inside out? The first one is imagination. I stands for imagination. We covered this a little bit in the episode on Space for Mission. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Daydreaming is good. Please daydream. Please daydream. Please fantasize. We're going to take 30 seconds. If you've ever meditated, if you ever daydreamed, you know that this can happen very quickly. I've got to watch. We're going to take 30 seconds right here and now because we're going to start imagining. So prep yourself, prep your family. Nanishi's in the room. Prep everyone. We're going to take 30 seconds. Imagine it. It's like a prayer moment, but I want you to imagine, daydream, drift. We're not going to force these thoughts. That's next. We're going to receive these daydreams. Who do I want to be? So I'm going to take 30 seconds, and during the 30 seconds, I'm just going to give cues to stimulate. So we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, daydream. Where do you want to travel? What's your fitness level that you want? How does your business go very abundantly today? How much money do you have in the bank account? Okay, let's come back. Very brief. It doesn't take a lot of time to daydream. And when you daydream, your mind releases. During the day, as your workday goes, your mind starts to clamp up as it protects itself from the world's invasion. But taking a moment, not only some people take smoke breaks. Go outside, get a cup of water or a cup of coffee, breathe. Don't just breathe and take your eyes off the computer screen. Daydream. It's more rejuvenating to your brain than nearly any other activity. Daydream. We just took 30 seconds to a minute right here to daydream together. I want to hear in the comments, what did you daydream about? What did you daydream? And hopefully it was what you really wanted for your life. That's how you start that. The second one is T for thoughts. Imagination is more received. You kind of follow it and let it guide you. It's a more of a soul activity. It's creative. And it's a very sensitive thing, so you can't force it. You have to receive it. That's why most people don't do it. They wake up at 7, they brush their hair, and they walk out the door, and they wonder, man, I never feel like I'm ready for the day. The day sucks. Get up early. Why do you think I have so much energy? I get up early, and I've spent time in my imagination place. But let's move to thoughts. Thoughts are where you drive your thinking. And when you do your thinking, it's driven thinking. It's not received like imagination. You craft the details. So if in your imagination, you pictured yourself to be in a certain fitness, when you move to T for thinking, your thoughts, you actually start selecting the details. This is how the world smells. If I'm at a dinner party in my imagination, in my thinking, what's the clinking of the drink glasses together? What's the laughter feel like? How are my emotions? You're actually shaping that thought. Oftentimes we say thinking. Well, what do? We wait till we get an email from a client. Okay, now I'm going to start thinking. The client's going to make me start thinking. Or we think, I'm going to think on my business. And we receive this stimulus from the outside. Okay, where's my business at and what do I need to fix? It's like we got a sticky note or in our inbox and said, now we're going to start thinking. Thinking needs to first start from your internal imagination. Thinking needs to first start with the internal to the imagination. The imagination and your thoughts are a sacred place inside of you. They're more soul-driven. And they're in there, and you need to use your imagination to inform your thinking, not your thinking to inform your imagination. Imagination is sensitive, it's flighty, and it requires space to breathe. So your thoughts should not inform your imagination. Your imagination needs to put your thinking on notice. Hey, thought life, I know that you're used to having the same story loop of how my business is, oh, my team, oh, the type of clients we get, oh, it's always so bad. And then when we just imagine the worst. Stop that. Pause everything. Start with the imagination, how it should be, the type of clients I really would love to work with, what my life looks like in 2 or 3 years. And that should then inform my thinking. Okay, so how am I going to shape my business? Grant, what about this email from a client? I'll get there. Grant, what about these profit margins? What about this bookkeeping? What about this? I'll get there. Or I might not. But I've got to shape my outer world. And sometimes the outer world will break itself on thinking that is strengthened and informed from your imagination. So once you have a good thinking life going, then you enter the emotions realm. So I.T.E.A, imagination, thinking, emotions. So check this out. The word emotions comes from the Latin root, which popularly means to be disturbed. Don't trust your emotions because they disturb you. Listen, emotions are a fact of life. The other possible interpretation of the Latin for the word emotions is to move or to incite, like a mob. Meaning they're thick and two-dimensional, and your emotions should be informed by your thinking, and your thinking is informed by your imagination. That should be a wellspring of goodness. So your emotions, though you need emotions to process the outer world, emotions are a buffer to your inner world. The reason when you have a bad client encounter, you weep or get frustrated is your mind, your psyche is trying to protect your thinking so that you don't create a trauma and just start thinking about that trauma. And now you're informing your imagination that it's always going to be this way. And so you always imagine the worst. That's not how it's supposed to flow. You're supposed to have an emotional reaction to what's going on externally, but it's a buffer zone. It's like a tide land where the tide comes in and messes things up, but the sand berm is supposed to hold that back, and your emotions are allowing you to get it out. Man, get that frustration out, process that here, but then go back to the imagination and ask yourself what you should think about that fact so that you have continuous outflow that way. So negative feelings should exist. A lot of people think that with personal development or positive thinking, that I think negative emotions should not exist. I believe negative emotions should exist, but only in two cases, only when you take actions away from your goal. You should allow yourself to feel bad when you take an external action that moves you away from your goal. And that bad feeling should only exist for the duration of time it takes for you to correct that direction. It should be like your negative emotion should be like a parent that gets you back on track. And you shouldn't sit in that feeling. You should experience the feeling. You should, oh man, I made the wrong decision here, or we totally handled this wrong. Okay, are we good? Are we good? Breathe it out. Let's go back to the imagination, return to the visualization of how things should be, fix the thinking. Okay, how am I going to act on this to make this right and do this good? Okay, now my emotion should then shift to positive because of internal intent. And then that emotion, that positive emotion, that shift from the negative to the positive, not faked, but controlled and directed, should then be positive and say, no, I'm going to take this new course of action. And then the action, obviously we're moving to A for action. The action should then happen. So we took a 30-second break under imagination to fantasize together. Under thoughts, you should then start now by taking that imagination and shaping out the details. That's the action you take there. As it comes to emotion, I want you to use the two skills. Right now, we're just going to take 10 seconds, 20 seconds to do this together. I want you to go back into your imagination place and imagine the appointments that are on the calendar today. Imagine them. And imagine them going well. And imagine, even if there's a little of turmoil, how you respond only briefly, emotionally. Okay, this isn't going right. Let's get back on track, and how you get back into the leadership position in your mind's eye. So let's just take 30 seconds. Let's do this now. Imagine your schedule today. Imagine some of the high and lows that could occur. See yourself reacting appropriately, like, oh, that's not good. But this is what I'm going to do now. This is actually the process of manifestation, is the process of channeling your visual cortex, your imagination, to your thoughts, to your emotional spectrum. You are preparing your emotional spectrum because your emotions are the charge, the electric charge on your actions. So you could do the right action, but have a poor attitude, and people know it falls flat. There's no positive charge on that. You could do the right thing, call the client. Okay, I'm going to be humble, but I'm actually completely enraged. I'm going to lead my team abundantly, but I actually don't believe in them. They feel that. That electric charge, when you literally shake their hand, that magnetism is actually a charge. Or even in the subtle physiological clues, they will know you don't mean what you're saying. You don't mean it. This is why manifestation or positive psychology is meant to move from the internal to the external. And where you need to really regain control is you need to clean up. You need to clean up that buffer zone called emotions that protects your inner life from the outer life, especially if you have a healthy internal life. And so in the emotions, if you can envision your day ahead of time and envision the positive and negative encounters, you envision the positive encounters and you're celebrating with your team, you're high-fiving people, you're shaking hands, and you're serving people well. And then you envision, ooh, this might be tricky. I might have a tough conversation here. And ooh, as even unforeseen challenges come up, how am I going to respond? I'm envisioning catching it in the emotional realm, going, ooh, that doesn't feel good, and I'm not happy about how this is going. Take a pause. Ask yourself what you envision. I envision that this is going to turn around right now. And it changes the emotional charge. That's how we act now on the emotions. And last but not least, obviously, taking action. Believe it or not, the actions you need to take in the real world are the easiest component of I.T.E.A, the Freedom Framework for turning fantasy into fact. Actions are actually the easiest thing to do, especially if you break those actions down in a very pragmatic way. Obviously, we need to be taking better actions. Adam took at least a little step towards his mentors, and he's going to continue to do that. Most of us actually know what to do. We are not lost on what we should do. We just often don't have the fortitude to take action on it like we should. We either lack the self-confidence, we lack the drive or ambition because we truly do not spend time fantasizing and telling our thoughts what to think. Instead, we have nurtured doubt because we've let something through the buffer of emotion into our thought life, and that informs our dreaming self. And because of that, We don't know what our dreams are. And because we don't know what our dreams are, we have an ambivalence. And because we have ambivalence, we're not taking action. I always encourage people, if you doubt yourself, go act, because you need to send the feedback loop. You don't have your emotions under control, but if you can even take initiative and action, you're sending a new feedback loop through the emotions into your thought life, into your imagination, and a good action builds the confidence on new fantasy or new imagination. That's okay. So as it comes to action, it's relative for you all. So I don't have a start now for that other than to say, make the call you've been intimidated to make. Have the conversation you've been afraid of having. Look at that pile of work that you've allowed to pile up and have been avoiding. Adam emailed his heroes and someone from the staff wrote back. Take the action so that you can feed your self-confidence that I do the right thing even when nobody's looking. And that will then shift your emotional charge internally to be a positive emotional charge internally. Do you see how this works? You've got an imagination and thought internal life, the buffer zone of emotions, which is a two-way flow, and then actions that either, they might even be the right action, but if you are not aligned with that, it doesn't have the oomph, it doesn't have the charge it needs to manifest well or to be received well in the world. I encourage you today, take one small action today. If you want to get fit, swing that kettlebell a few times. You don't have to get a full-blown workout. Send a message to your brain that you do the right thing. And your fantasy and your imagination will continue to start to reinforce that cycle. Listen, I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope this Thursday is phenomenal for you. I hope you conquer challenges today. I hope you overcome and slay giants today. I hope you climb mountains today. I hope you make new friends. I hope you make new sales. I hope you have peace. I hope that you have a calm, though busy and productive day. I seed that into your imagination. I.T.E.A, imagination, thinking, emotions, action. I hope this has been useful. I am going to go join my wife for coffee. Go out there and have a great day, but please remember the mission. Igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. Have a fantastic day.